Good evening, everybody. My name is Gaurav Sachdeva. I head retail at Bestseller India. And we have a very interesting panel today. We had two more people who are unwell and then they could not join in. But we have, I'm from a fashion organization. We have somebody from food, which is McDonald's. We have somebody from the providers of food from the Rajiv Sanjeev Goenka, RP SG. And then we have somebody from the intimate wear and the innerwear business, which is Page Industries. Very interesting mix. And we are going to be having a conversation on the old versus the new mall dynamics. So to begin with, I think what I'll do is I'll put some things into perspective on what I believe are the changes in the last, thank you, in the last 4-5 years from a dynamics perspective, right? And I'm going to speak not only about the mall dynamics, a little bit on the consumer dynamics as well. So in my opinion, last 3-4 years, a few things that have changed from a mall dynamics perspective is that the malls have become a little more consolidated, right? The ownership is becoming consolidated. There are a lot of private equity funds which are opening, and buying a lot of other malls and consolidating. Then from a mall perspective, I think all malls are becoming much, much bigger, right? So that's an impact on the consumer. They're becoming more of experience centers than just being shopping malls, which used to happen earlier, right? And a lot of old malls are also converting like that. And apart from that, I think from a environment perspective, with a lot of digital brands taking over, a lot of quick commerce, right? The omni channel is at play from a very, very large perspective. So mall is not only a hub of people coming in and shopping, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that dynamics of how that is working for everybody. But they're also becoming a fulfillment center to some extent for the areas nearby, right? And also in the mall, there are some stores which are getting challenged by the quick commerce because, grocery delivery and so on and so forth is becoming much faster. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll go over to Sachin, and I'd like everybody to introduce yourself. Just give a heads up on the number of stores that you have overall, and a little bit on your thoughts of these dynamics. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Gaurav. Well, my name is Sachin Damle. I head real estate for McDonald's West and South, which is Hardcastle Restaurants Private Limited. To look at malls, we have around 35% of our portfolio in malls in the South and West. So roughly around 150 stores, which includes both the full dine-in as well as the food court restaurants. I think, couple of points already you have spoken about the dynamics which has changed. So clearly, if I look at the first mall where we opened way back in 1996, our mall journey also started almost more than 25 years back. And till now, I guess the biggest thing which has changed is surely more consolidation happening and national level players coming into the picture. Everybody talking of million plus square feet malls. So a lot of opportunity to do multiple stores in those malls. Earlier, it was more of builders who were doing single malls, 2 lakh square feet, half sale, half lease, a lot of complexity that time. But things are now started to get more, I would say, organized, wherein the operators know what brands to get in, the mix, the zoning, everything coming together. So, I think we have been always focused on malls when it comes to metros. And we will look at malls basically from a experience, from a dine-in experience and full service stores basically to that extent.
Thank you, Sourav. We move to Neerav.
Sure, thanks, Gaurav. Good evening, everybody. I'm Neerav Sejpal. I represent Spencer's Retail and Nature's Basket. So Spencer's Retail is the hypermarket concept that we have, and Nature's Basket is the gourmet grocery supermarket concept that we have. We have around 135 stores for Spencer's in the country, and Nature's Basket, we have around 35 stores. I head the national expansion for both the brands, and we are a part of the RP Sanjeev Goenka group. We also run a mall called the Quest Mall in Kolkata. So for me, right, for us as brands, basically, we've seen a paradigm shift in which, in the way in which malls are now thinking from a grocery/food standpoint, right? Earlier, I've even been with the Future Group for nearly 7 years, so opened a lot of big bazaars in my career as well. The thinking process was very different, where every mall that was opening wanted a standard hypermarket, 30,000 square feet, 40,000 square feet, 50,000 square feet. Times have changed. now I think all the new malls, regardless of what size they are, probably are not wanting that traditional hypermarket concept anymore, but are probably more looking towards a much smaller supermarket, which is probably a niche category, a gourmet category, is not a traditional grocery, apparel, general merchandise, staples, footwear, luggage kind of a concept, but something which is much more evolved, right? So that is one big paradigm shift that we have seen as far as our category is concerned. So that is one very big change that I've seen in the last, I would say, 15 to 20 odd years from a hypermarket standpoint. The other one, which Gaurav and Sachin mentioned, right, is on the size that the malls are coming up. Earlier, there used to be smaller sized malls. Now we're talking of 1 million or 1.5 million or 2 million. Or Sarat City is a 2.7 million square feet mall, right? So the sizes have become much larger. And I think in the earlier days, there used to be a plain cookie cutter model that used to be followed where a clear-cut zoning used to take place for every mall. I think now times have changed, and what we also look at from a retailer standpoint is what additional, change or what additional, impact is that mall bringing into from an offering standpoint, right? So I think now zonings probably have gone out of. I mean, I won't say they're not there anymore, but now they're much more flexible. That in ground floor you could probably have a cafe as well, right? You could have a restaurant as well, right? Earlier, probably those thought processes weren't there. So, which is a great addition in the new mall. So, as retailers, we're also looking at what are the new things, what are those those differentiation points that are coming in all the new malls that are coming up when we look at signing up the new malls in today's world. So that would be my thought process, Gaurav.
Perfect. Thank you. We move on to you. Just explain yourself, and if you could sort of take
Hello,
us
yeah.
through the business that you have.
Thank you, Gaurav. So I'm Sourav Talukdar here. I am heading the business development for the leading essentials brand Jockey for the territory of the West market. And talking about Jockey is an essentials brand. And today we have across Pan India, we are having 1,335 stores. Out of that, if I look at the portfolio, 30% are at the mall and 70% belongs to the high street. This is primarily because we are an essential brand where we have to give an emphasis to the proximity and convenience of the shopping for the customers. Apart from the exclusive stores, we have more than 1 lakh shop and MBO presence across the market. Now, coming to the point of the mall dynamics, today, if I talk about our Jockey exclusive business store, there we have got from essentials, from men's essentials and women's essentials put together, we contribute around 51% of our business, and remaining 49% of the business are exactly coming from our outerwear and accessories business. So if I look at when we place our store into the mall, so we take the advantage of zoning of both essentials as well as activewear. So in that case, we get a tremendous benefit from both the categories. So that's where our sales get a higher throughput. Secondly, if I look at the malls today, malls are transforming from a only transactional shopping to a community center, where people celebrate their national, cultural, and their personal special events. So we get a high gathering, high footfalls, and which eventually helped us to get a very high throughput from the day one itself. So when we are opening store in the high street, perhaps we have to take a certain time to get the break even. But when we are opening store in a best of the best mall today, because of the kind of events the mall is doing, we get the footfall from the day one itself. Apart from that, if I talk about the kind of technology interface, the new mall dynamics are incorporating are really appreciable. Like when we are just entering the mall and when we are coming out of the mall, so our parkings are very smooth today because of the payment gateway. And then the next is the when you are entering the mall with the kind of interface kiosk, touchscreen interface that they have kept, wherein we are able to understand where the stores are at one, at the one touch. So these are the few things, really helping the new mall dynamics to be ahead of the old dynamics, and we as a retailers are really getting benefit out of that. Thank you.
Great. So quickly, what we'll do is we'll address the O word in the room, which is omni-channel, right? A lot of stores doing delivery. How do you think that has impacted, and how do you think that that is kind of changing the dynamics for you? And we'll start with you, Sachin, because I understand there's a very large delivery model that you guys follow. And at the end of the day, I'd also like you to mention that from that standpoint, if there is anything that you are, you have to communicate to the mall, saying that this is something that we would like. If you could put that through, please.
Yeah, I think great. Thank you, and it's a great opportunity also to tell them all, guys. What happens is typically post-COVID, almost 40% plus is business is happening on delivery, whether it's our own channel or the outside. So what we are planning to do is clearly we want people to come in and experience. So we want to do full stores. We are not going into food courts from that standpoint. It may be the second store. So like as the malls are growing in sizes, surely gives an opportunity to do 2 stores in the development, because a million and 1.5 million square feet mall, many times I don't think so a customer comes in and is able to go across the mall. So he specifically comes either for entertainment and food, or maybe for shopping, and he would want to have food at different levels, because walking all these 4 or 5 floors, obviously they want to have to sit down and relax in some outlet or whatever. So we are looking at doing 1 store for sure, which is a full experience store, because end of the day we have already digitized our stores with self-ordering kiosk, and we would want to give them table service, unlike the older ways where you have to go to the counter and order. So we have given them the privacy, go to the table, you can sit and order from there itself. And the second store, of course, can be in the food court, where multiple options are provided. And from the same family, if somebody wants to eat a burger and somebody wants to eat a biryani, they can go there and sit down. So clearly, if I have to do a 1 store only, we surely are looking at a full store. And that's where at times the resistance is coming, wherein the mall owners are only giving us a food court option, whereas we are more of experience, because if you have to eat food, they are anyways ordering at home. So when they come to the mall, we want to give them the full service, because we also have new technology in these stores, as well as the overall decor and all we have changed. Coming to the delivery business, of course, because of the 50%, we are most of our business happens on delivery, and we have to pay to both the partners. But yes, they are facilitating by the way they are providing exclusive access to the Swiggy, Zomato guys. They are making them convenient, because they also getting the chunk of the money from there. So, but if we can have a model wherein I will not want to touch upon the rental point of view, but we are working with them on how we can address those issues.
Of course. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Sachin. That was very candid. Say you spoke about two stores, right? We are talking about, so if there was a mall that was built at a far larger scale, right? If you were to put to a number to say that, listen, for every 500,000 square feet, I'd like to have 1 store. Every million square feet, I'd like to have 1 store or something like that. Would you have that kind of a thought process in your head?
So it's typically actually more than that. It's more to do with what kind of footfalls the mall would get based on the size and the anchors which are getting. Because now there are multiple anchor options coming in. Earlier it was only the standard supermarket or hypermarket, but now they are getting sports as an anchor. Of course, multiplex was always an anchor. And then people come for specific occasions. So based on that, we can position the store either at a ground level or a lower ground level with the supermarket, and on the food court level. So more than square footage, at least it's, of course, because of the size, we are going to get options to put more. Right. But on a 5 lakh square feet mall, we don't think we'll be able to go more than a store itself.
Neerav, what's your thought on this?
Sure. So it's a very valid point, Gaurav. Delivery, no doubt, is the thing right now. It will obviously just increase in the future, even for a grocery player like us, between both the brands, right? So just to give you a breakup, out of the 135 Spencer stores that we have in the country, nearly 40% are in malls. Out of the 35 Nature's Basket stores that we have in the country, around 25% of them are in malls, 75% are high street. So both do have a majority of the asset base on high street. But the ones that we have in malls, right? The older malls, while the delivery, I mean, let's say the delivery mix in malls is 10 to 15%. But the older malls, we had to create that space, that entire environment of how seamless that entire process of delivery can take place. Because let's say, even if it's 12 to 15% business, right? We still need to cater to it, right? Because tomorrow it's just going to increase. So we have to see to it that that entire process is done in a seamless manner. But with the new malls, because delivery wasn't such a big thing or even thought of 10 years ago, we never thought of designing a store in that way, or the malls did not think of designing themselves keeping delivery in mind, right? Which today, if a new mall has to come up, there will be a point of keeping that entire business of that channel of delivery in mind when they're designing the mall or when they're designing a store, right? If so, for example, I remember in my earlier role in Pizza Hut, right, when we used to open a store in a mall, we used to literally look at having two entry and exits, one for the customer, one for the delivery rider, right? Because aggregators were such a huge business. Right now, in our hypermarkets and in our Nature's Basket stores, we are figuring out ways of how more seamless can we make our riders' journey out of the store when we are present in the mall, so that they can have easy access to the service lift, go down, pick up their bikes and leave, right? So I think that is one dynamic that has changed in a very big way from an old mall perspective to a new mall perspective of how seamless and how easy are you making the life of a delivery rider. And I think that is just going to become a much more important point in the future as well.
Right. Thank you. Um,
Hi Gaurav. For our brand, I have slightly different view in this particular case because we are taking the advantage of the prominent mall to come up with a more of an experiential stores. Because what happened, it is sometimes difficult to get the kind of infrastructure that is required on the high street, a kind of 2000 square feet, 3000 square feet store. So in this case, when in a mall, we have in adjacency best of the best premium brands, putting across their best experiential stores, we would definitely love to be present in that manner. And we are taking our baby step ahead to come across with an experiential store in all of the prominent malls. So that is where, as a jockey, our focus lies. And secondly, we also believe to the fact that in the new malls dynamics, the mall is coming up. The shop, it is not only shopping; it's a more of a recreation and fun put together, because the mall is coming up with lot of theme park and then Kidzania, Snow World, and all of that, where people can spend the entire day shopping. So where people have come across with a lot of time, they have got ample time to do the shoppings over here, and that's where we take the advantage of coming up with an experiential store. That's where our focus lies.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll move on to the next thought process. Malls have also become a very large digital medium, right? Okay. If I have to see a 2 million square feet mall, or a 1 million square feet mall, they would probably have a far larger digital asset in terms of advertising, right? Than maybe the proximity of 10 kilometers, the amount of hoardings which are available, right? How do you see that kind of impacting? Because with the newer dynamics of these malls, right, how do you think that digital environment could be far more used to the advantage of the retailer and the mall?
It can be a little more specific because
So I'm saying that, for example, these screens, right? All malls are using very large screens now, and it's a very large advertising space, right? Which never used to happen or never used to be there earlier, right? So how do you think that is changing the game? Is there a change in dynamics there? Because that itself is also becoming a profit center for the mall.
I think it's more relevant for more than McDonald's as a brand, because for the other brands, because we also have our own social media and other advertising. But from a digital right now, we are taking the standard opaque screens on the mall fronts and all. But if there's a new launch coming in where we want to show a product which is new in the like a McCafe or maybe something on the chicken, that time surely we get a lot of mileage, but of course it comes at a differential cost because the digital screens are pretty expensive to that expense.
Of
So
course.
that's something, if they are able to do that at a good pricing wherein they'll also get the benefit when the product sells, I would say that would be better.
Okay, thank you.
So, Gaurav, that's a very valid point, and I can give you an example of a deal that I am actually doing as we speak, where I wouldn't name the city or the malls that I'm talking of, but I am actually signing up a Nature's Basket in a new city where we're not present as of today, and I had two malls to deal with, three malls in fact, right? Two were old, one was very old, one was a medium kind of a timeline mall, and one was a new mall. Now we went to all the three. We visited the store. We saw the entire asset. We figured out how old the mall is, how depreciated it is, what have they done to reinvent themselves, all of that, right? And then we went to the new mall, which is obviously just launched maybe a year or two ago, right? And how much investment they have done from a digital standpoint, right? And there was a stark difference, chalk and cheese, honestly, if I may say so. And uh, as you probably would guess, we ended up deciding to go with the new mall. Not that the old malls don't perform well, or not that we have anything against those old malls, but just for the fact that this is a brand new mall and the amount of investment they've done on the digital piece and the amount of focus they have on, the point that you actually mentioned, just actually gave them an edge over the other two malls, and so it's a live example that I've literally done just in the last 1 week or so. So it definitely plays a big role, and probably also goes to say that old malls, I'm sure they also realize the same, right? That they will have to reinvent themselves from a digital standpoint, right? If they haven't done so, which rightly so, maybe because when they had opened at that point of time, it wasn't required.
So I'll ask you that pertinent question here because your group also runs a mall.
Yes.
So is Quest an old mall or a new mall?
So yeah, I mean, I don't run, the mall myself or my team, but there's a separate team altogether. But yeah, Quest is an old mall which is trying to reinvent itself in many ways possible, with newer brands, with a complete renovation that we are planning to do, so on and so forth. But yeah, good point brought by you. I mean, we really have to reinvent ourselves. Otherwise, I don't think we stand a chance in front of the newer malls that are coming up for sure.
Sourav.
So, coming back to the point of the integration of the promotional advertising space with a digital front, in case of any new mall, has actually helped us a lot as a brand, Jockey, because as we are transforming ourselves from a core, innerwear brand to also a lifestyle brand. And as I said earlier, that 49% of our contribution are exactly coming from the top wear, active wear, and sportswear categories. So in that case, what happened in all of these promotional, interface can be used to communicate the launch of all the new products for us. And so all the new product offerings we can communicate well. Apart from that, all of the new mall dynamics, the way they handle their social media, and also some of them are also having their individual app. In that app also we can communicate about our new launch, new product offerings, promotional activities, and all of that. And it's actually helps us a lot to get the required TG walking into the customers.
Perfect. So I think we have about 4-5 minutes left. I'd ask one last question, right? There are so many places where malls are getting developed right next to each other because the government makes a zone like that, right? Now, if there are two malls right next to each other, right, from the one that you choose and the one that you do not choose, what would be your key takeaways to say, listen, I'm going to choose this mall because, and I'm not going to choose this mall because, right? If you could just mention it like that, it'll be a very, very clear thought process.
So first, actually, I would say As McDonald's, we would like to be a part of both the malls if, because like you say at Dandeli, for example, we are on both sides of the station. Because I think a mall is a trade area by itself. The kind of footfalls they draw because of their specific brand mix or because of the zoning and as well as their anchors. So, but yes, if I have to select clearly, would select a player who is a national player who knows how to operate malls, would not like to select a mall which is half sale or a half lease clearly, because then the focus changes. And of course, if they give me a full store.
They give you
Thank
a full
you.
store. Okay. And what would you not choose? The sale model, you said, right? Okay.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
for you, I'd like you to kind of differentiate it between your hypermarket and your
Sure.
Nature's Basket format.
Sure, perfect.
Yeah, or a gourmet format.
So yeah, unlike Sachin, I obviously will not open in both the malls because I have a very different offering, and I don't think I can afford opening a hypermarket or a Nature's Basket in both the malls. So I will have to choose between the two. For the hypermarket, it will be and in fact, the basics for both my formats would be very similar to what Sachin mentioned. I think obviously it doesn't have to be status sold. I mean, because we cannot operate in a status sold model. It has to be a fully leased and a good operator who knows how to run a mall. Because I've opened a few stores in malls where the developer does not know how to run a mall, and we know how the mall is also struggling and we are also struggling. So that is probably the most important point as of today. Second would be the offering that the mall has to give, right? I mean, how is that mall differentiating itself vis-a-vis that other mall and the other malls in the city per se? So these two are very important from a basic standpoint for both the brands that we have. As far as the specifics go, I think for a hypermarket like Spencer's, it's very clear. It has to be more, I would say, value driven, more footfall driven. Whereas for a Nature's Basket, it has to be slightly more premium. I wouldn't go for the value customer. It has to be the HNI, SCC, A plus kind of a customer, or maybe even A for that matter, right? So the clientele is very, very important.
But the
for
location
me.
being the same, what defines the clientele for you?
Location being the same, what defines the clientele for me would be how the mall differentiates itself than the other one. So the offering that the mall has to give will play a very, very big role rather than any other point, along with the first point that I mentioned. And the third point, obviously, without saying it, which all other retailers would agree to, is who gives me a pure revenue share.
All right. Thank you so much, Sourav. We'd like your view as well.
So in terms of selecting both the malls, I will take a 4 points. The first point is the kind of brand mix the mall is having. So this is the first point. Second point is the infrastructure design of the mall. How large is the central atrium, and how is the connectivity of different floors through the travelator escalators and the circulation parts. So this also makes the success of the mall very much play a very major role in the success of the mall. So this is the second point. Third important point is the mall operator. I think who is the mall operator? What is the kind of reputation they are having? What is the success they have demonstrated in different malls across India or across zone? That also plays a major role. So that is the third point. And the fourth important point that I look at, that whether if that mall is having a mixed use development, suppose mall coming up with a transit mall like Seawood, where the footfall is not only of the it's an inherent footfall which is coming of the transit people, or maybe mall coming up with a clubbed with a hotel or a high-end hotel or an office space, where you will get a lot of advantage of that. So these are the 4 points basically I look into when I will select the mall.
Perfect. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Neerav. And thank you, Sourav. I think we are done with the session. Thank you so much.